everybody, it's Tyler here at the FRC Championship. Checking in with you, returning world champions. It's 29-10, Jack in the Bot. This team has gone through just such an incredible season, following all the way through different iterations of robots. It's been great for us to watch. I know probably a lot for your team to go through on there, but it's been really inspirational to see everything with that. This robot here, if you didn't see their Instagram post they had recently, the BPS on this thing is absolutely insane. Got to watch it in a match recently as well too, and Jack in the Bot is back and in some incredible form. We'll be doing an overview from this incredible intake, how all this has come together, some of their different system integrations as well. You'll learn a bit more about some of their programming that's gone into this well too. So let's find out more here on Jack in the Bot on Behind the Bumpers. Kylie, your team has gone through a lot of different iterations through the season as well too. Can we talk about some of the engineering process of your team, how you approach it, and then we'll start to dive a bit more into the robot itself.
Yeah, for sure. So prior to kickoff, our team comes together to plan out what our season goal will be. So this year, our season goal is to win the World Championship again. And we recognize that this is an extremely broad goal. And so we always set some constraints for ourselves to ensure that we don't overreach on our resources and knowledge level. And so this year, our constraints was reliability and simplicity as well. And so during kickoff, we analyzed the game and pick a strategy that we believe will be the Einstein level winning strategy. And so we were thinking, okay, well, on Einstein, what is an Einstein winning alliance like? And we recognized that throughput was going to be incredibly important. And so we wanted our main strategy to be throughput, right? Everything was going to be about throughput. So regardless of how our robot design and architecture was going to be, it needed to really bias throughput. And so from there, we made our priority list and detailed superstructure lists and designed our original robot, which was called Blitz. And essentially it had the two intakes that were 4 bars, and it had a serpentine shaped kind of ball path that would shoot out on a drum shooter. It had no hopper because we were thinking our entire field would be our hopper. And so although the strategy that we picked was mostly correct, that robot unfortunately failed to really perform to a level that we wanted. It just wasn't able to execute the strategy that we wanted to an excellent level. And so we realized that after our first event at week 2, and right after our week 2 event, we had an engineering realignment meeting, and we decided that we needed to rebuild an entire robot from the ground up because our original robot Blitz just did not meet our expectations and was not able to perform to the level that we wanted. And so here's our new rebuild, Reblitz. Our team followed the game true and true. And so kind of before I jump into the technical stuff of this robot, I do want to preface everything by thanking Team 254, the Cheesy Poofs, Citrus Circuits, and Mechanical Advantage for really inspiring our design of our robot.
Before we get to our next segment, we'd like to thank the following. FRCT's Managed Store Program is an easy and profitable way to fundraise for your team or off-season event. FRCTs will handle everything from production, packaging, bulk or drop shipping, payment collection, and accounting. Teams can set their own prices, and FRCTs will take care of the rest. Fill out a quote request or get more information when you schedule a callback at frcts.com. Build your alliance with so many other FRC alumni who go to Kettering University. Every student at Kettering experiences their cutting-edge co-op programs that seamlessly blend the professional and academic worlds. Kettering co-ops are a fully immersive working experience at the leading edge of industry. Head on over to kettering.edu/FRC to learn more about their incredible programs and to get more information. Real quick, your team, you mentioned that you went from one strategy to another, that sort of thing.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's fantastic that your team is able to align that way, where you're like, hey, you know what? We went in what we thought was the winning strategy for it, but we understand that in these circumstances, we have to do something different. I think a lot of teams are super impressed by your initial robot as well, too. And it's really cool to see that you've done this sort of rebuild for it. So yeah, let's dive more into kind of some of the key features of it as well.
Yeah, for sure. So basically, kind of to give a high-level overview of our robot, it's basically a drive base, an over-the-bumper intake, that's a slapdown style. It's got a feeder, it's got a shooter, and also a 55 ball hopper. So basically, our hopper is, to keep things simple, is just passively deployed. So this is our starting configuration for any match. And essentially, once our intake deploys, the entire hopper will deploy and it just stays out like that. So David, if you want to show people how the deploy works. Yeah. So once it deploys, we'll basically intake a ball. And so this is kind of how the ball path works if you want to shoot the ball. Yeah, and so basically our intake will kind of, it will stow to kind of agitate the ball up over into the feeder and out through the shooter. So that's kind of how our overall ball path looks like. And so kind of to talk more in depth about our intake, we have a really robust 2x2 bash bar, which is at the very front of our intake, and that allows us to protect this 2-inch OD roller, which is our main intake roller, because we recognize that this is a super defense-heavy game, and so it's just the ball will go over, and you have these 1.25-inch OD lower kicker bars to really try to maximize our throughput and get as many game pieces as possible into our hopper and load them up as fast as possible. And so it's a 4-bar intake. And yeah, one of the things that I think a lot of people will like to kind of notice is that our intake is super robust. And this actually comes from past experience, because the original 2 double intakes that we had on our original robot were super not impact resistant. And so we wanted to make sure that this intake could ram into other game pieces without really, or game elements without being damaged. So these are like 0.6 thick billet plates, 35 chain for the pivot, and so super robust.
Yeah, overall, I mean, watching your robot field, it seems like no issues at all in regards to picking up stuff. Your acquisition speed is absolutely crazy fast as well, too. What do you think like the biggest key to that is in terms of getting fuel acquired really quick inside your robot?
Yeah, for sure. So a few things. Our intake, it's got 2 Kraken X60s that are powering the rollers of the intake. So it's got a lot of juice in there to kind of really roll, to get that RPM up. Another thing is that these kicker bars right here are chain driven, and you'll kind of see that eventually. It's kind of a running theme that everything in our robot is chain driven, because we recognize that chain has super low resistance, and if you were to spin these rollers right here, it's super easy and smooth to spin.
Tanya, there's looking at in terms of the overall throughput of this robot, it's been really cool to see on the field. So can we talk more about how the feeder system works, the shooter, and if I remember correctly in your guys' Instagram post, I mean, you were advertising a 35 BPS around that sort of thing, right? I'd love to hear more about it.
So quite a few things actually contribute to our balls per second. So the first thing is that our entire feeder system is chained together, and it's powered by 4 Kraken motors. On top of that, we have these, if you notice, we have these 2 polycarb backing plates in front of the hood rollers and behind. So those just help guide the balls, the fuel better into our shooter. And yeah, like Kylie mentioned, the really low resistance really does help with our balls per second. We also really experimented with a bunch of different gear ratios, but we found that a 1-to-1 gear ratio worked the best for our robot, and just specifically for getting that high BPS that you mentioned.
One of the things I noticed on your roller floor that you have that I think not as many other teams have seen is you do a little bit of an angled roller floor for that. Is that helping you get fuel even quicker through your robot?
Yeah, for sure. It does help just guide the balls up through the J curve of our feeder and into the shooter bed.
Yeah, and we also took a lot of inspiration from teams like the Citrus Circuits in 254, right? And they have an insanely big hopper, but something that we thought we could iterate upon was a preloading system into our shooter. So we essentially have two cane ranges, one in the hopper and one in the feeder, and they essentially these are basically like a bean break, right? They tell us that so the hopper cane range basically tells us if the hopper is around like 80% full. And then once that's tripped, the code knows to preload into this J-curve thing that we have right here with our feeder rollers, and until this feeder can range gets tripped. So once this gets tripped, it knows to stop. And it stops right before it hits the flywheel and ends up shooting. And this allows us to have 2 rows of 4, so 8 more balls per hopper cycle. And I think that's something that helps us with just that little bit of delta that's required for the strategy of this game.
Yeah, it's been very impressive. In terms of the shooter, when you were looking at doing the rebuild, that sort of thing, what kind of different iterations did you go through, or even like prototypes in terms of getting this rebuild done that maybe you didn't go with? Can you explain that a little bit more?
We started off this rebuild just like Kylie mentioned, just really taking inspiration from the cheesy proofs and the Citrus Circuits, and originally these 2 backing polycarb backing plates didn't exist. These used to be rollers, but we found that that more rollers didn't actually help our balls per second. It actually created really inconsistent exit velocity for the field. So that really just spread out our shot. But when we switched to the backing board, our BPS really just shot up.
So looking at, in terms of getting from the fuel into the shooter itself on here, you have a couple of these different kicker rollers that you mentioned a bit ago on that. So it's going, most teams that we talk to, they always mention that it's going to be belt driven for things. Why has chain been so important for Jack in the Bot?
So I think we just have better experiences with chains over belts by far. But also, I guess the main point for us was that chains just have a lower resistance, and that just helps with us getting the high balls per second that we are talking about.
Geetika, let's talk about the code and the programming on this robot here. There's so much that goes into making this happen for Jack in the Bot. So what are some things you want to highlight on this?
Yeah, for sure. So I kind of want to start talking off by how we structure our code, right? So we don't use the command base, like the WPI command base, like a lot of the teams. We instead use finite state machines for all of our subsystems, right? And the reason why we did this is because it's just a lot more easier to read, a lot more easy to debug, a lot more easy to log, and it's just basically for readability and basically just to make our code a lot more cleaner to read, right? And we've had pretty good experience with it. So I can basically just talk you through what happens when our driver presses the scoring button,
sure.
Right? For example, so the driver basically just needs to worry about 3 buttons plus the joysticks right now. It's the score, pass, and then intake, and then the driving, right? So for example, when we press the score button, it's fine. When we press the score button, a lot of different things happen, right? And we essentially have different subsystems that our code controls, but the main subsystem that controls all of these and orchestrates all of these different actions is what we call the superstructure. And this superstructure is what so basically from our controller bindings, right, we send a enum wanted state to the superstructure, and then the superstructure goes and then basically delegates those tasks to the different subsystems through enum wanted states, and then each subsystem takes that wanted state and then controls the motors and knows exactly what to do. For example, when we shoot, there's a lot of things happening here. The intake goes up. The intake basically retracts all the way, right? And then the hood goes up to the pre-calculated angle and RPM. And I'll also talk a little bit more about our vision solution. We don't use MegaTag like a lot of teams do here. It's something we did try out, and we found out that it's reliable, yes, but our simple solution of just using the tag corners that we get from the network tables and calculating the tag height works incredibly well. So last year, we basically just took the tag corners from each of the 4 corners and then calculated the tag height. And with the number of pixels, like the pixel height of the tag, we have a distance interpolation table. And then, yeah, but a very interesting problem that we ran into was we had quite a bit of distortion while looking at the hub tags from an angle, right? So it was looking like like a rhombus, right? And we just essentially picked one side to calculate the height of, but that didn't necessarily work because it was smaller on one side and larger on the other. So instead, we basically took the middle of the tag height, getting the average of them, and that ended up working really well. And we have really good relocalization with our tags. If you look at our autos, for example, we in the center line, there's when you go into the neutral zone, there's quite a lot of collisions that happen, right? But we're able to recover pretty quickly because we purposely have this rotation for the limelight to look at the back hub tags and relocalize real quick before we come over the bump to shoot. And that's very important because we don't want to lose a whole hopper full of balls in auto. Yeah, so that's basically our vision side of stuff. And
I gotta ask, from
Yeah,
your
for
localization, does that also happen, like if you end up beached or something like that over, are you immediately then just localizing and you're able to almost get off being beached from that?
not necessarily from being off beach, but say our odometry gets messed up and we're beach, right?
Sure.
So once we have this thing where we retract the intake up and down to get off the bumps, right? And then so our odometry is messed up at this point. But the second we look at a valid hub tag, the code instantly knows to relocalize and set the odometry to that point. Yeah.
Perfect. David, there's a lot of optimizations your team has made for this robot, especially getting ready for champs as well too, as I'm sure. We saw this robot debut at your district championships, but not a lot of time between to get ready for the first championship. So talk to me about some of those optimizations your team has gone through.
Right. So our bring up for this robot, I think, was a new programming record. It took only about 2 hours to get basic functionality. And part of that was base subs, which is a template that we use to automate a lot of the low-level motor IOs. And an IO is just input-output. You're giving the motor something and you're getting these log values. And a lot of that is very tedious. You're just writing the same methods for these same systems, for these same motors, and getting those same values for everything, right? So we decided to automate this in our code base. And all you have to do really is provide the motor and its limits and some of the ranges. And if it's an intake, right, the motor we use for the intake, you provide the limit of it, only go from this degree to that degree. And it allows us to basically, by just putting in some info, we get all of these methods without having to retype them out, and we get all these log values automatically. An advantage of that also is we can give it a unit conversion, and for every method now, it'll reason in mechanism units. We don't have to think how many motor rotations. We can just say intake to this degree, hood to that degree, and it makes everything a lot easier, a lot faster, and that's what allowed us to get done in 2 hours.
Overall, Jack in the Bot, first off, congratulations on an impressive season gone through for our PNW champions as well too, as we didn't mention. And here, it's been really cool to see this robot compete so far. So wish you best of luck here. Thank you for being a great inspiration to other teams as well too, to showcase any team can go through iterations and rebuilds and make it happen to be successful as well. So wish you the best here at First Championships. Thanks a lot. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and click the bell to stay up to date on future fun videos. Build your alliance with so many other FIRST alumni who go to Kettering University. Every student at Kettering experiences their cutting-edge co-op programs that seamlessly blend the professional and academic worlds. Kettering co-ops are a fully immersive working experience at the leading edge of industry. Head on over to kettering.edu/first to learn more about their incredible programs and to get more information. FRCT's Managed Store program is an easy and profitable way to fundraise for your team or off-season event. FRCTs will handle everything from production, packaging, bulk or drop shipping, payment collection, and accounting. Teams can set their own prices and FRCTs will take care of the rest. Fill out a quote request or get more information when you schedule a callback at frcts.com.